I want to get to Airbnb's filing. The company now disclosing details of its initial public offering plans for the very first time, releasing financial results and previously confidential information on its operations. This listing set to be one of the biggest of the year.
We've been waiting a while for this one, but Airbnb's announcement that it is going public is one of the most highly anticipated startup IPOs of recent years. Airbnb is a generational company which has disrupted the hospitality industry in a number of ways. Since its inception, Airbnb has enabled 825 million guest days in over 200 countries, with cumulative transactions totaling more than 110 billion. Airbnb has accomplished amazing feats over the last 13 years and is a very far cry from the original air mattress concept that started this industry-changing company. Here's a brief history of the company from Cheddar.
How did Airbnb, a $38 billion company with more rooms than all of the largest hotel chains combined, become the giant that it is today? When Joe Gebbia and Brian Chesky were living in San Francisco, they both wanted to do something that would change the world. They were made aware of a conference coming to San Francisco for designers, but in big letters across the bottom of the flyer, it stated that all hotels were sold out. Disappointed that people who wanted to attend the conference couldn't come, as well as desperate for a way to make a few bucks, Joe suggested that they offer their own place to anybody who wanted to stay on the airbeds they had in the closet. Not long afterward, they launched their own website, airbedandbreakfast.com, and for $80, they offered designers a place to stay for the weekend's event. They included travel guides to the city they loved so much and made the guests from around the world feel like locals. After the 3 guests that booked with them left, Joe and Brian remarked that they had such a great time hosting that they wanted to create a way to offer that experience to more people. Incredibly, Airbnb's fortuitous timing helped change the perception of housing from a liability to a means of making extra money. When people saw that the model worked, they flooded on to this new platform. By taking a cut of every transaction, the business model depended on more listings to succeed. 2010, Brian would go on to live exclusively in Airbnbs for many months while employees crowded him out of his own home. To this day, he still recalls that time as pivotal for understanding the experience of hosts using the site. And when international listings started to increase, investors sat up and noticed Airbnb. This time, instead of the founders calling the investors, venture capital firms were knocking at their door. Later that year, they raised a further $7.1 million from VC firms. Next year, celebrity investor Ashton Kutcher invested a significant amount of money into the rising San Francisco startup and secured a spot on the board as a strategic advisor. It was around this time that Fiji Island was listed, a private 5-acre island with water sports and private chef in the South Polynesian Sea. At this point, Joe was personally reviewing every single listing, and when he saw that come in, he knew Airbnb would be huge. By early 2011, Airbnb had hit the 1 million listing mark and had homes in 89 countries, including a boat, a treehouse, an 11th century manor in the English countryside, and a deluxe villa on the beaches of Bali. 5 months later, the number of users had hit 2 million, and by the end of the year, they had 5 million users registered on their site. By June of 2012, that number had increased again to 10 million. They've grown now to boast 150 million users from over 100,000 cities. On any given night, 2 million people are staying in an Airbnb.
Where does Airbnb go from here? I suspect that Airbnb will continue to grow rapidly and continue to alter the industry landscape. I think they are a great company and will continue to be one for many years moving forward. The question for investors is, will they have outsized profits in the long run? If they're not able to, Airbnb may ultimately be a company where the majority of value created occurred in the private markets over the past 13 years. On the other hand, if they are able to, they could join the likes of Tesla, our favorite, Square, and Shopify, which have more than 10x since going public and created the vast majority of value in the public markets. There are 2 key attributes which have made Airbnb a disruptive business. First, it has discovered an almost endless supply of new rooms and properties, many of which offer different and exciting experiences in areas and neighborhoods that hotels simply cannot match. Second, it has taken the asset-light model to the next level. In 1992, Marriott became the first hotel company in the industry to use what is now known as the asset-light model. Basically, the hotel giant focused on the management of the hotel without the burden and risk of equity investments. 3 decades later, Marriott has become the world's largest operator, while almost every other international hotel company has followed it. While Airbnb has had many successes, I still think there's some potential pitfalls. The first one is potential competition from competitors like VRBO, as well as big hotel chains trying to come in and copycat Airbnb's ideas. Second is that this is still not a profitable business. They're still going through a lot of cash, and their burn rate will continue to be high for the foreseeable future. The third one is obviously the travel environment. I think people are going to be skittish for the upcoming future, but we'll see how this one turns out. Having said all that, I think this is ultimately a question of leadership. Does Airbnb have the type of leadership who can establish a vision? Do they have the ability to execute? Do they have the resilience and adaptability to make changes and stick with those changes through hard times? I think this clip really illustrates this well.
Have dramatically reduced our cost. We reduced our cost, and it was an incredibly difficult, harrowing experience because we said we don't know how long the storm will take. And so I'm going to hope for the best, but I'm planning for the worst. So if there's a shutdown, or multiple shutdowns, if communities get shut down, if travel stops, we'll be okay because of the change we've made. We've cut nearly $1 billion of marketing. We've had to reduce our staff. We've been very, very lean and nimble. And we've also been resilient. We've launched online experiences people can do from home. We have longer term stays. A large percent of our bookings, almost a fifth of our booking or nights, are for stays longer than 30 days. And the other thing is we have not lost any host on our platform. So the important thing here is that the market is resilient. The community is resilient. And I think that one trend that is going to happen is the following. Travel as we knew it is over. It doesn't mean travel is over, just the travel we knew is over. We spent 12 years building Airbnb's business and lost almost all of it in the matter of 4 to 6 weeks. What's happened over the last 3-4 months, though, is something else entirely. People are saying they want to get out of the house, but they want to be safe. They don't want to get on airplanes. They don't want to travel for business. They want to go to cities. They don't want to cross borders. What they are willing to do is get in a car, drive a couple hundred miles to a small community where they are willing to stay in a house. And because of that, though our business has not recovered, I want to be very clear, something remarkable happened, which was the end of May, early June, we had the same volume of bookings in the United States as a year before without any marketing, zero marketing whatsoever. I think this is just showing that people are yearning for something. They're yearning for connection. And they want to be connected to each other, to the communities. They want to get outside.
For me, there was 3 big lessons I learned from that interview. 1 was the ability to adjust on the fly. 2 was the ability to deal with adversity. And 3 was just the ability to pick himself up. It's been a tough year, especially for the travel industry. And I think it's pretty amazing that within such a short period of time, there was the ability to adapt and adjust and really be data-driven still and stick to the principles, but make the most out of the principles and always look for kind of underlying silver linings in the situation. So I'm very optimistic about Airbnb's future, and I'm very much looking forward to the IPO that's coming up soon. So as promised, here's one of my favorite clips on television all time, and I hope it makes you laugh like it did me. Thank you.
Lindsay, are you forgetting that I was a professional twice over, an analyst and a therapist, the world's first analrapist?
Yes, and you were almost arrested for those business cards.
Yes, no, it did not look good on paper, but